First time in Pakistan. I never thought I would come to Pakistan. That is all my problem. It's not your problem. But here I am, so the problem is fixed, and I'm really happy to meet so many friendly faces and have the opportunity to, I think, engage in what I believe is part of a bigger program of building. We had a meeting this morning, myself and my colleague Shabir and some important partners of mine from the University of Haripur. We had a meeting with the HEC and it was very, very positive, and there'll be more to be said about some of the outcome of that in this afternoon's session. But one of the things that the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan is very keen to do with its research community is capacity building. And I really made a strong case for why this framework that we experimented with in terms of the competition, and it's not just about the competition, but this framework designed for early career researchers, for novice researchers, is about capacity building at the very, very lowest but important level, at that grassroots level. So I'm really pleased to be here to continue the momentum of this program. And the Train the Trainers session will inevitably have elements that are of great familiarity to you. But what I've tried to do in designing the PowerPoint slides, and I'm not necessarily going to look at every slide because there's more material than we can cover, but I've tried to do this in a way that gives some new insights. That are particularly pertinent to the trainers. And I know that, I suspect there's a few students in here, they're the trainers of the future. So that's fine, but to train the trainers for me is really important, because I'm one person and I can only be in one place at one time. I guess technology allows that to multiply, but in the end, if this framework is going to be successful, then I have to convince trainers of the value, I have to convince trainers of what positive things can happen, and I have to invest time, effort and energy in providing resources and guidance on how you can best apply the pitching research framework. So that's really my goal today, and I've really tried hard to give a few different insights and to provide a set of slides where there are links, live links to resources that as trainers you can use. These slides are absolutely totally available for anyone who wants them. There's currently residing on the hard disk of that computer, but I would really encourage that in an appropriate way, anyone who wants access to these slides should have access. It's quite a large lot of megabytes, so it's not necessarily something we want to be circulating via email, but if it can be made available electronically in a central repository and people given links to it, I'd warmly encourage that. Now, as everyone in the room knows, and should know, and hopefully I want to stress and emphasise as reflected in this particular slide, is that the basis of the framework is a paper that resides on the Social Sciences Research Network, downloaded over 12,700 times. What I would want to stress to the trainers is that while I'm happy for you to circulate any variation of materials, in terms of the paper itself, which I think is an essential reading for the target group, I'd like the students to be encouraged to access this paper directly themselves. The papers, these are available for free download, and for me, I don't wish to encourage bad behaviour, but the metric of downloads is an important metric of impact. So I suppose another way of putting it is I don't like the idea of the PDFs being circulated directly. Just direct the students that are going to use the framework to go to the source, which is the Social Sciences Research Network. So along the journey for me, I came up one day with a phrase that I believe says it all. Your research journey starts here, and I'm happy to have the University of Queensland Business School logo as part of this. Now, the University of Queensland has the goal of challenging the future. And I like to, my variation of this is let's create the future, and for our young researchers, let's create the future in a way that can utilise a simple framework like the one that everyone in the room knows about. So I like the number 3, but and I should have 3 goals, but somehow I've got 4 goals. So these are the goals that I want to do for the trainers today. I want to spend a little bit of time, but not too much repetitive time, on the basic tool itself and the philosophy. I've got a different angle on this that has in mind the trainers. All right. So there's lots of slides, and I think I'll cherry pick. You'll get the idea, and then you've got reference to the slides later on. So the second goal will then be to think about the applications of the framework that can help develop student research skills. And I've got a few angles on that to share with you. Then, subject to time, I'm going to give you a little extract of an example that I was working on the plane, almost on the plane. Well, because I've already been away from Brisbane for 5 days. I spent 3 days in Indonesia and 1 night in Singapore, and I did several, you can guess it, pitching research talks. And so on the plane I was looking at some material for an upcoming part of my tour of here, because I think you're now getting the idea, and hopefully you're finding, as trainers of the if I'm training you as trainers, then there's a whole bunch of things that you can look at as to how you deal with your students. Now, around the idea, it's thinking about, is the core idea clear, concise, simple, compelling? Is the idea founded on robust, relevant theory? Theory is important. It's not given an explicit role in the template. I think of it as happening to the side, because it can be quite a big effort and a big focus in itself. So I want to keep it out of cluttering up the framework, but theory is important. Does the idea have too many moving parts? So again, I'm worried about when the student tells me specifically what their paper or their proposed paper is, they want to overcomplicate it. There's a whole bunch of other things there. Is there theoretical tension? Is there any aspect of the idea that raises a big red flag for you as the trainer? Like a deal breaker, and you just think this is not feasible. And the final point on this slide is again around that connectivity theme. Data, a whole bunch of things I can tell you to think about there. So the proposed data fit for the purpose? Are all aspects of the data sampling decision sensible?